Hello, everyone. Happy New Year. Welcome back to another edition of StarSound Speaks. This is your host, Irlianna Samsara. This is episode 139. So it is January 1st, 2022. Welcome all and Happy New Year. I have the forecast for the year ahead. And what we're going to talk about is major transits. We're going to cover a lot of ground here. Oh my God, I've been like writing and rewriting my notes for like weeks. I've been working on this. But anyway, I'm going to talk to you about some major significant events that really color the landscape of 2020, plus dates that these will be happening and its impact on the United States, especially. I will be pulling up the United States chart. And it's not just going to be about these, developments and energies, but it's also about remedies and things that we can do proactively to make the most of these transits and events and shifts in consciousness. Because generally speaking, I think bottom line here, we're at this amazing tipping point. And sometimes tipping points are scary, right? Because it's like we're leaving the world that we knew. We've had a little practice in getting pushed out of our comfort zone, obviously, the last 2 years. This is going to be a different sort of movement. It's not going to look like 2020. It's not going to be 2021. So I'll get right into it. And like I said, we're going to be offering some interesting ways in which we can best use things that we can practically do that we can really evolve our consciousness, because that's going to be a huge, huge thing this year. Okay, so getting started. We have this year is really like, it's like different chapters of things. Like last year we had, it's so weird to call 2021 last year, but anyway, last year we had the big event, so to speak. It was the Saturn Uranus square. And it happened 3 times in January, July, and again, just at Christmas Eve, it was exact. So that was all about this push for change versus, what do we hang on to that's important from the past? How do we honor the past, but then how do we progress into the future? And letting go of things that are not in line with our new vision of a more unified collective society. So that has been the tug of war. Now, it's not going to be, Saturn and Uranus are still kind of in that square by sign, but it's not going, they're not exact on degrees. So that's not as loud a conversation this year. It's going to be kind of in the background. It's certainly going to be putting its presence known, we'll say. But generally speaking, I feel the big deal this year we've got is going to be a very strong Venus, Neptune, Jupiter signature with your Venus and Uranus. Now, why is that? Well, we have the eclipses are now in Venus and Scorpio for the next year and a half, right? Venus, they'll be bouncing back and forth between North Node, South Node eclipses, North Node in Taurus, South Node in Mars ruled Scorpio, North Node Venus ruled Taurus. So a lot is working itself out, new beginnings and new endings around our worth, our possessions, our physically, like our currency, a money system, currency, value, tangible values, things that you can touch and taste and feel and smell, the senses, right? Taurus, the senses. And so we are going to be seeing a lot of change in this area, and certainly the digital revolution, because Uranus is in the mix with these eclipses this year. Uranus has been in Taurus for 3 years now, almost 4 years. So it's now that the eclipses have come around to Taurus and Scorpio, Uranus is really going to be stepping it up. And that to me is a lot about the digital revolution, going to this next level of this digital society. We've seen it in many places. And like, what about that? How does that impact us and our values, and what choice do we have in that? Or do we ever feel like we have a choice, with this increasing pace of digitization? Is that a word? I don't know. I just made it up. Anyway, so the first part of the year, this first kind of chapter of things is, this month, next month into March, January, March is intense. We got a lot of Saturn energy because we've got Capricorn, all these planets in Capricorn, and then shifting into Aquarius. Well, Saturn rules both of those signs. So it's the material world and restructuring our reality levels so that we can progress into a human, a humanitarian, ideally, a humanitarian futuristic world that works for everyone, a world that works for all. That's a big signature of this Saturn transit in Aquarius. We have another, year and a half of Saturn Aquarius. So, some people think, well, that's, if you ask people like Elon Musk or Mark Zuckerberg, they're like, okay, it's tech. It's, just jump into the world of tech and there's your answer. It's like, okay, but actually there are other choices we can make. And so it's up to us, it's up to us with our consciousness as to which way, how this is going to go. Is it this and this, or this or this? I believe in a yes and universe. So it's not like black or white or one or the other. So these are the things that we're, tussling out this year. So in January and February, definitely like work it, baby, work it. I'm going to pull up the chart here, share screen. Let me see, for the United States. And I'm going to bring it back to, let us go to the now, let's see. This is the USA chart. Now this is 3 levels. So let me walk you through this. The inside ring here is the natal chart of the US. I am using the Sibley chart. I know there's many ways to measure the history of the US. I'm not having, the Gem Rising crowd. This is, not going to be the one that you like probably, but we all have our own things. Not that I'm not open to it, of course I am, but I'm going to use Sibley, the Sibley chart, which gives the ascendant at 1221. Very interesting. In the Keys of Enoch, they talk about 1221 as the ascension overlap. So I have to say that's probably why I'm a little more biased with this one. And I really feel it's the one that most people use for the chart of the United States, Sagittarius rising. And we just had an eclipse on that point last month, just about a month ago. So yes, major changes in the United States afoot and all over the world. So this is the inside. Now the middle ring here is called this is the progressed sun of the progressed chart of the United States. So what that means is where we have evolved since our founding in 1776. So 245, 7 whatever years after. This is where we are by nature. The United States is a Cancer country, right? Sun in Cancer, July 4th. But in that time period since that the country was founded, the secondary, that we look at this ring and you can see the sun is in 17 degrees of Pisces. So this is kind of like where our focus is in our journey as a Cancer country. We are now experiencing a Neptunian overlay, you could say, Neptune, right? So this is about mysticism and the dissolution of reality as we know it. And, it can also be about criminality and secrets and deception and fraud. But on the high road, it's very much about the mystical Christ consciousness, you could say, or Buddha consciousness, or, whatever, plug in the name of your favorite divine light being. So that's the second ring. And the third ring is just our average ordinary, here's today's weather, here it is right now, here it is in the sky. So as we can see, we got a lot of Capricorn energy right now. The the new moon is tomorrow. And so, but it's a heavy Capricorn signature. And as you can see in the United States, it's second house of money and resources. So getting serious around work and resources and talents and skills and getting organized and real and disciplining oneself, right? Those are all Saturnian signatures. This feeling of there's some kind of limitation that we need to embrace and embody and work with in order to flower. Excuse me. So this is our situation right now. So, generally speaking, January and February, work it, man, work it, baby, work it. We have Venus is in retrograde right now. We started the new year, Venus in retrograde, and Mercury's in shadow, and it'll go into retrograde very shortly. I think it's the middle of the month. Let's see, Mercury goes in. Yep, it'll be in Aquarius when it goes retrograde, and that will be in this month. So, you know, when Venus and Mercury are retrograde, these are not the times to be signing agreements and making long-term commitments. Certainly not. However, it's the time when we really, really do, with that conjunction with Pluto, and I've talked about this in previous podcasts, the conjunction with Pluto is really having us face our shadow. All the toxic, unseen, unconscious structures that have run us, is we get to peel back the layers, right? And it started last month, and it's going to be, Venus will continue doing its work and through the end of January. And it's going to be in that magical window. You know how I love to talk about the cazimi. The Venus is going to be cazimi with the sun on Saturday, Eastern Standard Time, Saturday evening till January 8th. So that's a week from today. Don't worry, we'll get you covered on that. But that's when Venus talks to, you know, the divine, like, you know, you're going up on Mount Sinai and here comes, you know, God is speaking, right? We get an audience with the big cheese. So the part of us that wants to be that peacemaker, that wants to create fairness and equality and agreements and connection with others, in the sign of Saturn's house, you know, having that conversation with Saturn as the god, right? It's like saying, let's get real, you know, and what are we really loyal to, or who or what are we loyal to? What secrets have we not owned up to, or what secrets are we not, that have been operating that we're not aware of? And it's like, oh, okay. Oh, relationships. Oh, you know, you've had children that I didn't know about in our marriage, you know, like big things, right? Elemental, earth-shattering things. This is the process that's going on right now. So that's obviously very big, and that's a huge flavor. And why is that so important? Because, first of all, it only retrogrades every 18 months. Second of all, and more importantly, it's because Venus is the goddess of the eclipses, Venus and Mars, right? Those are our host planets for the next year and a half. So we're really delving into Venusian and Martian things, right? Mars, so it's war and peace, you know? And so love and war, or, you know, love and courage. And let's be nice, right? Love and courage. And where are we shallow, you know, shadow side of Venus, you know, the shallowness of love. And so really getting real here, and getting real around our resources and our self-worth and our talents and our money, you know, our physical absolute, you know, dollar, right? So these are all major things that are going on, and that we're going to see this what gets decided now with our own shadow work and then in a collective is going to be revisited with these eclipses. So one of the things I see is, especially with the full moon that's going to be coming up. Let us see, let me move to this full moon in January 17th. I just, you know, that's a real game changer. And you know, you could very well see full moons at 27 degrees of Capricorn conjunct Pluto. So there's this big thing about the CEOs and the billionaires and the plutocracy and those in power, that there's definitely something coming to fruition here. It happens right after the Venus in the underworld meeting with the sun, right? That palatial room, redefining our self from the very, very deepest aspects of ourselves. Well, I wonder about that. And if you look at it collectively, like I think of big dudes meeting behind the scenes that's saying, okay, this is how it's going to go down, or is it, you know, where things need to change fundamentally in our government and the structure of our government and how we take care of each other. Certainly with currency, I wouldn't be surprised if we saw, like, this year, the dollar, you know, how they've talked for decades and years about the dollar, you know, would it be the standard of currency? What do they call not the backup currency? Sorry, I'm just not the financial whiz that everybody else is. But the standard, you know, of currency, the currency reserve, that's what I was trying to say. I wouldn't be surprised if that changed, or we went to a full out digital economy when we had those the Biden, when we had the stimulus checks last year or the year before, I know deep into one of those, 700-page bills, there was all this stuff about the digital wallet. And I don't think that version passed, but see, it's just in the background and it's working its way through. But the digital wallet, digital currency, I think this could be very, very big. I look back in my handy dandy eclipse book, and in 1976, when we also had Taurus Scorpio eclipses, that's when the US government officially changed the definition of the dollar. So it was no longer tied to gold, the gold standard. We had gone off the gold standard a few years earlier, and then officially they removed all mentions of that in statutes. So that was the official, change, and that happened during a Scorpio, Taurus Scorpio eclipses. So I wouldn't be surprised if we saw some kind of definitive long-term change with the money system. Okay, and I would say too, with Uranus in the mix, Uranus is ruled by Venus in Taurus. It's a Venus, it's in Venus's house. So again, this long-term 7 to almost 8-year transit of Venus, a transit of Uranus, sorry, that started in 2018, is now, definitely making its presence known, like I said, with these eclipses. And that could also be earthquakes. It could be financial earthquakes, personal possession, comfort zone earthquakes, and it could also be it could be what do you call it? A digital earthquake. So here, let me show you a picture. I just found these fun little pictures. I'm going to pull this up. Hold on a second, to kind of like, don't tell me, show me, of what Uranus and Taurus and what we're dealing with. It will be very loud in April and in October when we have our April-May eclipse season, and then October-November eclipse season. This is what's going to be really loud. So let me grab that. Hold on. Okay, here's one of them. I apologize. I would love to give this was on the cover of a book and I loved it. A few years ago, I saw this. It was a book cover of like funny short stories, and I apologize to the author. I can't give you credit for it because I just took it with my phone and I realized this is an important conversation. This is Uranus and Taurus, all right? We're out of our comfort zone. There's an emergency going on. Look at all the forest fires we've had, earthquakes, floods, water shortages. There's just serious stuff around the earth that we're in emergency mode with Mother Earth. I think we're all in agreement on that. And this is like forcing us to get over, oh no, I can't be rescued. I'm in the middle of my facial, excuse me, but you can take the fish because, he's upset, but, let me finish my facial before we, right? So that's a really good example of Uranus and Taurus. And the other one I have for you, and this is real life, folks. This was the day, here we are, that Uranus stationed 0 degrees. Remember, I always said the 0 degrees of any sign is the critical degree, a critical degree, and it shows you what is coming. What is the nature of Uranus and Taurus? Well, here it is, by calamity with the earth. But again, Taurus being our comfort zone, you see here is this, they're playing golf, right? They're playing, oh yeah, wait a minute. I just, I said to the guys, I'd play, 18 holes today. And I'm sorry, the volcano's going, oh, I got to finish my golf game, damn it. It's like, hello. Would you be playing golf, or just here's some folks just standing here with their phones, taking pictures? I'm sorry, that's awfully close, So again, it's like this shock of dealing with our comfort zone getting radically disrupted. And if you remember, these people that lived in these $1 million homes on the island, one day they were just ash. One day they were there, multi-million-dollar home, and then just lava, right? Just completely gone. Uranus, right? Catastrophic change regarding the Earth in Taurus. So yeah, so there's that. So that's January, February, a lot of Saturnian energy. Work it, make things happen, get real, get settled, be real with yourself, take stock, be accountable, be responsible, be disciplined, be organized. When February 3rd happens, by then Mercury and Venus will be out of its retrograde January 29th, and then Mercury will be out of its retrograde February 3rd. So when that happens, boom, all planets, this rare window from February 3rd, get that pencil, February 3rd to April 29th, all planets are direct. So that's like, go get them, go. I think of my Bikram teacher when we're doing, what's it called? Standing, the stick pose, when you're on one, God, I've only done it for 10 years, you know, your mind is blah when you're in Bikram, if you've ever done Bikram. So standing on one leg and stick, whatever pose, and you're on one leg and of course you're sweating your butt off and you've got your arms out in front of you, and you have to bend down, right? You start here and you're bending down and it's scary, right? But when she says go, it's like, that's what I feel like with this February 3rd to April 29th. Just go, right? You hopefully use these next 2 months of getting your ducks in order, and then boom, because there's going to be a fast acceleration once we have those personal planets direct, right? So making things happen. February 22nd is going to be the Pluto return of the United States, 27 degrees, 33 minutes, Capricorn. I'm going to do a separate video about that, a separate talk, but I will just say, huge turning point. This only happens every, Pluto has not been in this degree since 1776. Ta-da! So it's obvious that this is very important. And we see a new reality emerging, just like it did with the British and the Americans, right? Shaking free of old structures that are not supporting, right? Now it's the billionaire class. Back then it was King George. You get the picture. Major fundamental changes in society. And of course, we have been seeing this slow rumble for many years. Pluto entered the sign of Capricorn at 0 degrees and was at 2008. So 13, 14 years, it takes about 15 to 18 on average to go through a sign. And so this fundamental restructuring. But like I said, that's a separate conversation for another time, but it is very important because things coming to a head, and where the idea of throwing off the plutocracy, and reinventing a society that is new. Now, obviously, there were slaves at that time, right? So, and that's the big hypocrisy of our countries, land of the free and home of the brave. Not really. I remember reading that there were in history that many of the signers, the declaration really fought, like, look, dudes, we can't do this slavery thing. This obviously it's hypocritical. And they fought, but they couldn't get the majority opinion to agree. So it had to stay. They did not abolish slavery in 1776. So yeah, there's this hypocrisy, but now with Pluto coming around again, we are inventing, with Black Lives Matter and the Me Too movement, two such movements that you see where we are addressing these really deeply rooted issues in our society and detoxifying, right? It's a long process of hundreds and hundreds of years, 400 years of slavery, 1619, first slave ship, 400 years, doesn't happen overnight. But it is definitely this point is very important. Pluto return, United States. Most countries don't last as long as we have. So, in Italy, it's like, every few years they have a new government. We have like 8 times more governments than we've had in our history. All right, so the next group of months, I would say like March, April, May, really crazy time. I mean, really, why is that? Well, we have Jupiter in conjunction with Neptune. My previous podcast, episode 138, I talked at length around Jupiter into Pisces. It just started. We're still at 0 degrees right now. It'll be there for a year. You can get all the details in that episode. But Jupiter will be coming into a conjunction with Neptune in Pisces. And then Venus will join the mix in April. So that's a really big deal. That's like great for creativity, great for inspiration. I would say there's a lot about dissolution of reality, and that can be good or bad. We have to make sure we're not running into addictions or escaping to a fantasy world because it's too painful to live here. We have wonderful tools like yoga, Tai Chi, meditation, things that will, and chanting, that would really heal ourselves rather than seeking escape through like drugs or alcohol, and having compassion for those who are really on the edge, really looking out for them. Jupiter, now I will say that the last time this happened, Jupiter and a Neptune conjunction was in Pisces. Because it happens around every 13 years, Jupiter-Neptune conjunctions, but Jupiter-Neptune Pisces every 166 years. So that hasn't happened since 1850, I want to say it's 1856. And if you look back then, you know, what was going on? Well, I know in the art world, there was this great desire to paint this optimistic portrait of America. This is when there was all these mass migrations over, you know, the pioneers and all the Mormons setting off, you know, with Joseph Smith, and it was very, it was this idealistic time. And so the artwork for sure was painting a beauty, you know, if you look at the art from the 1850s, 1860, they very lush landscapes and this etheric beauty, this beautiful world of possibility and optimism and hope, you know, and then this very much leaning onto nature, because the Industrial Revolution was really starting to pick up steam. And so this is kind of counterpoint, like, you know, let's not forget our natural world. And so here we are again, right? We're now, you know, this digital society, which can be monstrous, you know, some of the surveillance and things that we've heard about is truly, you know, very this Orwellian nightmare that part of it looks like. How much is progress and how much of it is not necessary is a big deal, right? Well, the art, you know, what our art can do now, like we take our clues in the 1860s, 1856 to be exact, returning to nature. Return to nature. That is our connection with our divinity. You know, God is nature. It's just as simple as that. This is the real world, not the digital world that, you know, Zuckerberg might be trying to sell you on. That's just how I see it. But March 7th is going to be, I noticed let me pull up that screen again of the United States chart. As you can see here, March 7th, let me go back to 722. Okay, let's go to March 7th. Okay, March 7th, we have a Jupiter Neptune conjunction. Here's what I want to show you. It's kind of hard to see this. Sorry, I wish I could make the screen bigger, but the United States progressed sun, as I said earlier, is at 17 degrees. Well, here's the sun on the 7th of March will be at that same degree, right? But this time, as opposed to like last year, or every March that it comes around, this time we have Jupiter in the mix. Jupiter conjunct the sun over that. So that and then very close with Neptune. So coming into that conjunction with Neptune. So this is a very, very potent time for, gosh, you know, in the fourth house in the chart of a country is like the roots, the foundations of the nation, the roots of our nation. We are a nation that was very steeped in spirituality. You know, we had pilgrims coming over. We've had genocide, you know, the shadow side of Neptune, right? All the Indian wars and genocide of the native people, very sad, but there. But there's this ideal, the whole thing about creating an ideal world and homes, our home life. So you see here, this is a very key date with this, you know, with religion, spirituality, higher consciousness, you know, the infusion of that over of where we are headed we are moving, you know, the highest design for us as Americans, and certainly, you know, with the rest of the world, right? This is applying to the whole world, is to, and especially over the United States, is to become that completely mystically guided, you know, entity. To think of like the Buddhist word of sok, which is like simpatico, where like everybody feels each other, and it's like we're all pulling for each other. This is a direction of consciousness that is available to us. If we don't watch it, we could be caught up in a lot of distraction and delusion and grandeur, and like, you know, people walking around thinking they're Jesus. You know, you might find that pretty loud in March and April as Jupiter gets into that conjunction with Neptune. And if you look too here, we've got very close Saturn, very close with Mercury in Aquarius. So, you know, who knows, that could also be about more lockdowns or more restrictions around our retailing, our connections and networking with others. When you think about, you know, and technology again, you know, Mercury and Saturn in Aquarius, this is like got a really strong technological signature. How do we come together? Do we come together digitally, or do we come together in our light bodies? You know, that's a whole other radical way of looking at it, right? We have a choice here. Okay, one of the things I think would be cool as to bring in at this point is to create art. You know, what's a remedy for all this, especially when April 12th, as we will zip over to April, here we are. April 12th is going to be the exact conjunction with, one day, okay. The exact conjunction Jupiter and Neptune. And so I would say this is definitely a good, what do you do with that kind of a situation? Well, I mentioned mantra, you know, that we think about Jupiter and Neptune, that's very much music. We're going to hear the most outrageous, we can have access to some of the most outrageous inspiration for music that we might ever see in our lifetime. It's going to be great. And I don't care if you don't think you're a musician or a poet or an artist. We all are. We all have that gene. You know, we have that divine light being gene. It's who we are, right? And so let's just go sing our way through this time of this very intense time of changeover and choice that we're making. I would say mantra, like if anybody wants to host a mantra festival, like, you know, or kirtan, this would be, kirtan is a Sanskrit word, and it's like singing the names of the divine. So, you know, chants and things, but any kind of songs. I don't care what religion you are or no religion, it doesn't matter, just sing. Right? Sing for your supper. Sing for beyond your cosmic supper. So that would be my thing. Art, music, mantra festivals, kirtan festivals. Two books that I recommend. There's the great mystic Osho, a wonderful being. He wrote lots of books, and this is one called, and I feel this is very appropriate because with Uranus and Taurus, with being alone and all, this one is called Love, Freedom, and Aloneness. I don't know if you can, just stop this share, and now you can see it. Love, Freedom, Aloneness, the Cone of Relationships. So it's a great book. And as a matter of fact, I opened to a page to read you a paragraph for inspiration. This is on page 44. And this is, again, these words I'm speaking are definitely, I always pray a lot before I do these podcasts, to create. And sometimes it takes days before it can sit down and hit that button. It drives my friends crazy. I love you. I know I drive myself crazy. I'm working on it. What can I say? Anyway, here's this part that I want to share with you. And this is on love. And this is very apropos to the eclipses and all the astrological transits that are occurring and what we have to look at this year. The fundamental question is how to go beyond the measurable and enter into the immeasurable. So that's interesting because North Node in Taurus is like go into the touch, taste, feeling, like we yearn for that, but maybe the access to that, we invent a new way of accessing that, or that which we feel is our, well, anyway, I shouldn't get into it. Let me get back to that one. And enter into the immeasurable. So South Node Scorpio, what we're leaving behind is this feeling of this need to control, the need to hang on and control and manipulate because we're afraid of going into that underworld or the unknown. But he's saying that the question is how to go beyond and enter into the immeasurable. In other words, how to go beyond matter, which would be a Uranus and Taurus conversation, how to go beyond matter. and open your eyes towards more consciousness. And there is no limit to consciousness. The more you become conscious, the more you realize how much more is possible ahead. As you reach one peak, another peak arises in front of you. It is an eternal pilgrimage. Love is a byproduct of a rising consciousness. Let me say that again. Love is a byproduct of a rising consciousness. It is just like the fragrance of a flower. Don't search for it in the roots. It is not there. Your biology is your roots. Your consciousness is your flowering. As you become more and more an open lotus of consciousness, you will be surprised, taken aback with a tremendous experience, which can only be called love. You are so full of joy, so full of bliss. Jupiter conjunct Neptune, and then Venus in April. Starting now, you'll feel it build. Full of joy, full of bliss. Each fiber of your being is dancing with ecstasy. That's a total Jupiter and Pisces thing, right? You are just like a rain cloud that wants to rain and shower. The moment you are overflowing with bliss, a tremendous longing arises in you to share it. That sharing is love. So, yeah, it goes on from there, but there's a little taste for you, and this is from St. Martin's Griffin Publishing, and that is there's the skew code, right? So anyway, yeah, this is just really intelligent perspectives on love, and you know, it says here in the back page, love can only happen through freedom. That's a real Uranus and Taurus thing, right? Through freedom and in conjunction with a deep respect for ourselves and the other. Is it possible to be alone and not lonely? So that's a huge distinction. I think we're also uncovering that too with currently right now with Venus retrograde, conjunction Pluto. You know, when we think about relationships with ourselves, with others, there's the difference. There, you can be alone, but you don't have to be lonely. Like lonely suggests that there's something missing. Versus just I'm alone, it just means I'm just right here, you know, like I'm not in a relationship, I'm alone, but that doesn't mean it, I'm not lonely. You could be in a relationship and be totally lonely. I think we've all been there, right? So it's fascinating to get deep into that, but this is a good book for these times. The other book I wanted to share, this is completely, it's out of print, so if it ever comes back, if you ever have a chance to find it, my friend passed on and I inherited her copy, but then I left it, it got rained on and it's just absolutely messed, but it's a really great book called Words Like Fire. So Osho's name, his Urim, his name of light is Osho, but he went earlier in his life by Bhagwan Sri Rajneesh. But anyway, this book is, again, he talks about whole darshans and discourses about Jesus and the disciples, and the whole the subtitles discourses on Jesus. So it's just yeah, he as he says here, these words are like fire, but through centuries of repetition much dust has gathered around the fire. My effort is to uncover them again. Be very alert, because we will be treading on a well-known path in a very unknown way. So again, perfect for the astrology. Anyway, so there's tons of videos on Osho. You can, you know, check them out on YouTube. So anyway, so that's our January, February, March. Like I said, March into May is, you know, lots going down. Where am I? Oh, here they are. Okay, yes. So very, very cray-cray with that Jupiter-Neptune conjunction. April 12th, April 30th, we have our solar eclipse. So let's go to the videotape. Let's go back to this and show you the solar eclipse in April. Full moon, let's see, here it is. Lunar eclipse, oops. Any eclipse there, and here it is. So this lunar eclipse will be happening. The eclipses, by the way, for the USA will be in the very challenging 6th and 12th houses. These are houses that are about a lot of work and effort and struggle, loss, sometimes a feeling of lack of agency, right? That 12th house. But the 12th house, the joy of Mars, and the 6th, the joy of Saturn. These are ruled by the Mars and Saturn energies, the joy of Saturn that wants to be alone, contemplating the deep, deep mysteries of the universe, you could say, that we're being called to do as Americans, with the 6th and 12th. But for everybody out in the world, this is a real game changer, this April eclipse, because Uranus is conjunct the eclipse and very close to that north node. So it's a real game changer. This where, you know, we could be seeing earthquakes, virtual and literal, certainly. You know, disruptions in the food supply, or just feeling, you know, the need to innovate with our food and food supply. And with that, I would like to share, here's a great remedy for that. Buy a tower garden. I know I sound like a commercial. Let me show you. This is my dear friend, Shire McGuire, has a nonprofit called Towers for Change. Just go to towersforchange.org. But she is a wonderful lady. She sells these amazing tower gardens. I have had one for like 10 years and I love it. I grow a lot of food on it. It uses like 5% of the water you'd normally use in a garden. In a tub of water, and the water, it has lots of natural fertilizer in it, and so you don't have to water your plants every day. The plants grow like twice as fast as those in the ground. It's a super energy conservation thing, and I highly recommend one. If you want to check it out, you can I would say just go to, she does good work with people in marginalized communities and helping, you know, the whole school to prison pipeline thing. She's really involved as an activist in these compassionate solutions. And so I had her on my podcast a couple of years ago, but just wanted to share that with you. Towers for Change. This is, I'll just show you real quick what the tower looks like in this picture. So let me grab this, share screen. Here we are. Yeah, that's a tower garden. See, you put the water in there, and this is a great solution. This is Uranus and Taurus all over. So Shire's website is called Towers for Change. So I could, Towers for Change, here it is. And isn't it lovely? And she's lovely. So yeah, get this going. If you haven't started growing your food, we got to get real here, people. We got some major you know, speed bumps that'll be happening. And we've already seen the price of groceries has gone up so much with inflation. We could be seeing hyperinflation, you know, as Jupiter gets closer to Neptune. Here's Shire working with these school children. She just does such great work. So here's her, and she was on TED. Look at her. Oh my God, she's amazing. TED Talks. A real warrior for truth and equality, and passionate about life. I love you, Shire. Here, by the way, this is not, she doesn't know I'm doing this. I'm gonna tell her. Here's her email, connect@towersforchange.org. So don't ever say you don't know what to do. I'm giving you solutions, people, right? So anyway, Shire has solutions, and there are many, many, you know, biodynamic farming, organic farming. It's huge right now. So jump in if you haven't, and take the next step. If you've already jumped in, you want to go to the next step. This is the time to do it. Okay, so the solar eclipse, yeah, conjunct Uranus. And then May 10th, we have Jupiter is going to zip through Pisces and get to May 10th to October 28th. It'll jump into Aries. So we'll get a little preview of next year, what it would be like the truth. You know, Jupiter is about the truth and justice and rights. So Jupiter in Aries is like, you know, I'm a truth warrior, I'm a spiritual warrior. So we get to, having journeyed through the mystical dimensions of Jupiter and Pisces, we get to kind of test out what we've experienced in this next few months with Jupiter and Pisces and say, okay, how do you want to bring that out in the world? What kind of changes do you want to make? So you could say, like, I'm God conscious in my body. Aries, Mars, right, rules the physical body. I'm a warrior for truth. I can make a change. I am the self-empowered divine light being, you could say, self-empowered, right? Aries, self-realized. individuated, the individuated Christ. You on the spiritual level, that's how you could see Jupiter in Aries. So we have that test of May, June, July, August, September, 6 months, right? 5-6 months. It will then it'll October 28th. It'll go back into Pisces. So from October 28th to December 20th, it'll finish up its work in Pisces. If you need to go back into those mystical realms, you have that further chance. And then once December 20th hits, it'll be in Aries for the following year. The May 16th, and again, like that, March, April, May, very wild and woolly changes, right? That lunar eclipse in Scorpio is going to be, the south node is going to be at 22 degrees. 22 degrees is some, depending on what school of astrology you're in, 22, you think about the numerology, the sacred numerology of the number 22. So it's like a gateway. And it is definitely like, to me, it's like saying, look, with that eclipse, it's like, look, are you gonna let go? If you don't let go, you're gonna be run over. Okay, so you just deal with it. Like when I lived in New York City, like you couldn't be a wallflower energetically. You got trucks, you got the FDR drive, you got bridges, tunnels, a million people commuting every day in and out, just so much activity. It's like, if you don't have your feet on the ground, la, 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 I went to Mount Shasta, no, you just, oh my God, here comes a truck, it's just intense. So the lunar eclipse, 25 degrees of Scorpio, definitely the chapter's ending. In the mundane area, you could see about banks, secrecies, maybe secrets come out around banks and the control of the monetary supply. There may be this feeling as we're evolving that we want to run for a comfort zone of what we like and know, this knowable world, but it's like, no, you just have to trust and let go. That's where I see too, it's happening in the 12th house of the United States chart. And that, that could be a loss of power or currency. That's maybe when some legislation or some agreements might be forged around this shift in currency and power. I know that, there's just this whole new chapter that begins with a currency and power. Oh, back in the 80s when we had Taurus Scorpio eclipses, that's when there was so many banks that went under. There was like the highest number since the 1930s, and they all got like maybe bought out by others or just bank failures, but there was very, very high rates of bank failure. And so again, this reshuffling of the financial system, we could say that would be afoot, or what's available. So, that was one particular, and then the BCCI scandal happened during Scorpio, eclipses, where Bank of Credit and Commerce International, it was in the 80s, and it was all these secrets, and they found out about money laundering, all these banks that were money laundering for, really crazed, dictators, and, just really nasty, ugly, right? Scorpio, think criminality and money, right? So all this money laundering for bad guys, that all came to light. So who knows, we could be seeing more of that. Okay, then in the summer's going to be pretty slow because it's like a summer of retrograde. So that's why you want to use that February 3rd to April 29th, get things moving. Over the summer, it could be about outer planets. All the outer planets will be retrograde. Saturn retrograde in Aquarius, June 4th, June 28th, Neptune retrograde in Pisces, July 28th, Jupiter retrograde in Aries, August 24th, Uranus retrograde in Taurus. So a lot of rethinking, stepping back. You are creating some outrageous image called My Life and how we want the world to be. Well, as the great Renaissance artist, you dabble, you create on your canvas, and then there's a time you step back and look at it and sometimes walk away and come back to it and see things that you didn't see. So that's what retrogrades are good for. So summer retrograde, slowing down, rethinking. Things aren't going to push forward so fast at that time. In August 1st, Uranus conjunct the North Node, and Mars will all be there at like 18 degrees. That's going to be interesting. So and there's going to be some fixed squares with your Mercury and and Saturn, so battling it out in Leo Aquarius. So that fixed sign squares can feel like something's got to give, right? You have to go slow and steady, but something's got to give. So that there's that tension around, how are we going to settle this, and how we have to change things, but we want to change them so that we can settle into another pattern that is, more beneficial. The fall, we have, stuff goes down around the truth and rethinking our strategy. I would think that, on October 23rd, Saturn goes direct, stations direct in Aquarius. We have an eclipse 2 days later, the South Node Scorpio eclipse. Now that one's going to be a biggie too. Let me show the screen for that one. And let me see, Lunar Eclipse. Here it is, South Node. Notice this. Look at that. Now here's the transits, right? Here's the eclipse, and here's the progressed Saturn of the United States. See, in 200 and something years, Saturn barely moves, right? So it takes 248 years to squidge over from 14 Libra, right? But look, 2 degrees Scorpio, 2 degrees Scorpio, 2 degrees Scorpio, 2 degrees Scorpio. Hello, right? Sun, moon, Venus, right? Money supply. This could be very much a fundamental changeover of the money supply. See Saturn, right? Structure, government, right? And resources. So it's a reorganization, a new beginning with our resources. I would say spiritually, it's like considering this, our resources sometimes we have to lean into the other world that it's not seen, but having with Jupiter and Pisces is giving us that faith trip. Have faith in the things that are, what is that? Faith is the evidence of things not seen. So I would think that would really come into play here. We got Jupiter back into Pisces on October 28th, as discussed. And then the last thing I want to talk about with this 2020, the big deal is Mars, the final event. So we have Venus, right? And then the eclipses with Venus ruled eclipses with Uranus in the mix. And the third thing is this Mars goes retrograde in Gemini. Every 2 years, Mars goes retrograde. This time it will be in Gemini. And it will be the Gemini return for the United States. Here it is again. Here's our United States, right? So we're going to pull up that good old Mars retrograde. So let us see. October 30th, 2022, right? It's going to be a 25 Gemini, and then it will go back to till January 12th. So it'll go into the next year, 8 degrees. So from 25 to 8 degrees. Well, guess what? It'll stop right on the Mars return, right? It's Mars return to the United States, and rethinking our agreements around technology, the direction we want to go in with selling and buying and merchants and data security, computer, very, very strong signature for that. And it'll go back, as fate would have it, and stop on the Uranus of the, so that's definitely heavy duty, big tech signature, right? So it's, who are we going to, 7th house, who are we going to collaborate with, right? And so maybe who we thought we were going to collaborate with, maybe we're going to take we have different belief systems where we're looking to, there could be a shift in our belief system here. And in terms of, that's, United States at large. But again, this is also, we had an eclipse in November of last year, 2020, sorry, the year before last now, right? In November of 2020, we had an eclipse on the USA Uranus, 8 degrees Gemini. So that has been bringing in a lot of, well, gosh, look at that. Did you see the story about the, that truck, that self-driving truck? It made an 80-mile, it was completely, it had police escort, thank you, good choice. 80 miles in Arizona. It went down small city roads, made turns, this, that, and then got on the interstate. But for 80 miles it drove, and it was fine. Shape of things to come, driverless trucks, robotic cars, we've been hearing a lot about that. This would definitely be a new chapter's beginning, not like, whether good or bad, it's just that. But again, on a spiritual level, that could definitely be about moving into higher worlds of connection. You know, when you think about the internet, the real internet is amongst us. Like our what are they called? The nadis, you know, in Sanskrit, the nadis of the threads of light that are the channels of light that are 72,000 inside our body, 144,000 outside. And so we are all connected to each other. So we've always, you know, throughout humanity, throughout history, we've had our connections, not just amongst us, but then with higher light beings and higher dimensions. And so that's the real internet. The cheesy version is the internet, like that I'm speaking to you on. This is like very, very dense if you think about that. And if there's one conversation we can have in 2022 is to see that we don't need to rely on the internet, even though right now, you know, where would I be without it? But it's just one step, and it's just this one grain of sand. Think about the real internet. If Uranus and Taurus does nothing else for us, is to realign ourselves with these values that are very radically different, right? Uranus is radical revolution in consciousness about what we connect with, you know, and how we connect. So when this conversation might be really in play for you in 3 times when Mars goes into Gemini. So October 30th into January, it'll be retrograde Gemini, but 3 times, January 11th, which is coming up pretty soon, October 12th, when it's retrograde, and November 19th are going to be high states of confusion, because that'll be squaring Neptune and Pisces. So Gemini and Pisces squaring Mars, you know, I want to drive forward, but the square at Neptune is like, let's see, which direction should I go in? Let me think about this. Let me really think about it in retrograde. And am I being deluded? Am I being delusional? You know, can I really move into these other worlds? This might be questioning, or who am I trusting? You know, am I trusting the right person or ideas? So that'll be happening when Mars goes a very interesting retrograde. Beliefs get challenged. Markets take a new direction, maybe stepping back, mercantilism when you think about Gemini. So anyway, that is, yeah, Uranus stations direct. Yeah. And then Mercury, our friend Mercury is going to be direct. It's going to be going, I'll just end it on this conversation, right? Everybody's favorite astrological topic, Mercury retrograde, January 14th to February 3rd. If you hear the dog, excuse me, I'm trying, excuse me. We have a Mercury retrograde in air signs this year, Aquarius. May 10th to June 2nd, Gemini goes into Taurus. And then September 9th to October 2nd, Mercury will be retrograde in Libra. And then December 29th to January 18th, it will be in Capricorn. So it'll start to mold into Capricorn. It'll into earth signs. So that's a lot about rethinking our beliefs and ideas and our connections. And our thinking, our magical futuristic thinking, Mercury and Aquarius, right? Be a genius. You are a genius. We are geniuses. So that's all for now. It's New Year's Day, so I'm going to try to enjoy myself the rest. I'm going to be talking more deeply about these subjects, obviously, through the year, but I just wanted to say thank you so much for all of your love and support. I just want to cry. It takes a lot to put these together, and I'm just so grateful for all of your support and love and words of encouragement and the sessions that you book with me. It's just it's an honor and a privilege to work with everybody. And so if there's anything I can do for you, you know, you always you got me. So this is my dharma. This is what I started out in Madison Avenue as an account executive. I don't know how I ended up here. I still have no idea, but I'm doing this. I'm like, oh, well, whatever, but I love it. And I love you all. So that's all. Just wanted to share that. Oh, waterproof mascara. Okay, so that's all for now. See you next time very soon. Big love. Mwah. Have a fabulous, beautiful, wonderful, mystical new year, full of faith and confidence and hope and all good things. So this is Irlianna Samsara, StarSound Speaks, StarSoundastrology.com. Thank you all for listening. Bye-bye.